Hi guys, Martin Curry from Belief Media. Domenico, how are you? Excellent. 5th of January, about 4 p.m, I think. First of all, we apologise. It's been a little while since some of you have received any kind of update from us. That's purely unintentional. It was just with some of our new systems, we got some of the email lists mixed up. But we've been in contact with most of you anyhow. So as we realise you're not getting communication, we pop you back onto the list. So for some of you, sadly, this will be the first time you've heard from us, maybe in a couple of months. It's been an unusual couple of months for us. We had planned on, we've got our platform product and everything else that we're releasing to general market, so to all brokers. Unfortunately, we didn't do much through the month of January.
Yeah, January ended up being a very interesting month. My parents both fell ill and ended up in hospital, so that detracted from our time. So we had to give priority to support, of course, because that's our number one priority, is the support of existing customers. And so we reviewed all the development timeline. We decided to push a few things back, and actually it worked out really well because it actually gave you a bit of a chance to breathe, and you put together an incredibly advanced triggering system now, which is fascinating. And I'm still catching up with exactly what you've done there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for a moment. But first of all, and there's a moth crawling up on me there. And first of all, your parents are still in hospital. Like, you've only just arrived in the office now.
Yeah, from the hospital, yeah.
So it's been a busy 4 weeks, and they went to hospital 2 days apart from each other. So it's been a difficult time for you. I think this is the second time I've seen you since Alana's birthday, the 21st of December.
Just before Christmas, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's full steam ahead sort of from now. We are launching our product to general market on maybe today. We sent out an email. We'll talk about it shortly because we did plan on doing it earlier today, but Domenico got caught up at the hospital, so we may wait until Friday afternoon. We may pull the pin on Monday morning.
Afternoon. I'll be back at the hospital on Monday morning, so afternoon maybe.
Yeah, we'll talk
shortly. It's going to be any moment now.
Monday. We'll do that on Monday. So we'll send you out a book over the weekend. It'll follow this, the email that carries this video. We'll send you our new guide. It's 650 odd pages now. It's very, very long. The last one we provided you about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Just discard that, delete it. Much as the information is unchanged, but there's just a couple of additional chapters towards the end. Now, you mentioned the trigger system.
Yeah, that's incredible what you've done there. I sort of walked away and we had a nicely working trigger system. You open up an email, it triggers an event, click on a link, and all of a sudden I come back and there's this beautifully nested advanced system that can just do what I don't think anything else in the market does.
Nothing in the market does. We talked about this the other day with Star Wars and George Lucas. George Lucas always had a vision and had to invent the technology in order to realise his imagination. It applied in Star Wars. In fact, it applied in, was it THC?
Terminator?
Terminator with James Cameron. Certainly he had visions for, that was T2. He had visions for that.
The moulding dude.
And, they had to go out and develop the technology. In fact, I think ILM did that as well. ILM are very good. They're very responsive to the needs of the cinematic industry. Anyway, it was the same for us. We looked at email trigger. Now, our triggering system on the platform, as many of you realise, those that are using it anyhow, would appreciate that is extremely extensive. Extraordinarily extensive. There are triggers for everything because they are the most they're central to your marketing experience. We talked about this the other day, and we kind of, we didn't. It's one of those rare occasions where we didn't come to odds with an opinion on something. But I think that the trigger system is the nucleus, anyhow, of the almost the marketing funnel and the broader, certainly the email marketing experience. Because what it does is it provides a course correction to a user through the email experience, through the follow-up. Unfortunately, in most cases, in almost all cases, the typical situation that applies is someone subscribes to an email, gets put on a list, and there's a very generic, linear, single flow of emails that follows on within that series. So within each autoresponder email, there's the option to have a trigger, say, for an open email or for a link email, both of which we support. And it's worth noting that that's connected to the website experience. So if you click on a link within an email and it takes someone to a website, we obviously record the user's details on the website. So we're able then to escalate their website experience and provide conditional content experience. But the problem with an email autoresponder campaign, like I said, is it is linear, even if you do have those triggers assigned. And I went through, while Dom was sort of busy at the hospital, I went through millions of emails we send, and we send millions every year. And I had a look at the patterns of behaviour of those people that responded to the campaigns. Now, we do have, by the way, the most persuasive and the highest return email marketing follow-up sequence in the industry by a long shot. Now, we're not talking 3 to 4 times. We're talking 10 to 12 times more people are contacting brokers because the experience is more relevant, it's media rich, and it's focused. But we wanted to improve that. Right? When we put in the conditional redirects when we built the conditional redirects, and we're the first people to do that again in the industry, on forms, calendar, phone, subscriber, or nil, bounce. The returns increased by 37% overnight, and they've incrementally improved over time. You can double or triple the returns from a simple landing page based on that all-important second page, right? So all these little incremental improvements add up to a lot. So we looked at the email experience and asked ourselves the question, if we had to reinvent it based on what we know, how would we build it? So, and by the way, that's a bad question to ask. Remember when Google did that? Do you remember what they came up when Google asked themselves the question, what would email look like if we invented
Wave.
Google Wave?
Yeah.
And we were big into Google Wave. We thought it was fantastic. We ran waveprotocol.info as one of our sites. If you don't remember Google Wave, it was a protocol that was essentially a replacement for email. It never really took off, but the technology was adopted into other Google products, G Suite and Gmail and everything Google. But it was just a fantastic system for internal collaboration within a company. You know, you've got Slack and Teams now. Google Wave was everything that those systems do and a whole lot more. So it's a bad question to ask. It doesn't always mean the results can be extraordinary, but it doesn't mean that people will use it. And the problem with Google Wave is it was extremely complex. What I'm about to explain is reasonably complex, and we've had long discussions about this.
Yeah, and how to simplify it, make it sound very procedural to at least get it off the ground. Yeah.
Because, like I said, the email marketing experience is very linear. And we sort of force people onto email lists. We've got the option of, based on clicking on links, of subscribing people to other lists or driving more relevant content their way. But we looked at how we could turn an email thread into kind of a breakaway conversation. You know, we use the analogy, if you've got a bunch of people in a room and, a guy and girl say, let's go out to the balcony, they have themselves a private little chat, right? That's a breakaway conversation, and then they dig themselves deeper and deeper into what may or may not eventuate in the evening. They might say, let's go down the street to the pub. They go down the street to the pub. Oh, let's get a coffee. And they'll end up, somewhere. And the point is that experience escalates. It's a conversation that breaks away and it follows a particular path through to completion. And we looked at the data that we extract from email marketing campaigns and what we could do with that data and how we could use it to better build and support real meaningful email follow-up, even more meaningful than the follow-up we already provide. Because like I said, we're improving upon something that still is industry leading by 300 or 400%. And what we did is we built what's called a nested trigger system. So a nested trigger system is kind of like a chatbot for email based exclusively on email interaction and actions. So where somebody might get an email, this is where it's getting complicated. Gee, it's hard to explain. I hope Beeline does a better job of detailing this. If someone gets an autoresponder email and clicks on a link within that email autoresponder campaign, which we call first tier, it's a basic link. Now, if that particular link launches another email, that email is called a nested email, right? And that's the beginning of another, essentially an email thread. So it's not an autoresponder campaign. You do have the option of subscribing someone to an autoresponder campaign on the basis of clicking on a link, but we're sending them a single email that might have 2 or 3 links. And then on the basis of clicking various links within that email, you end up building this hierarchical and I was going to say threaded, but it's a one-way discussion that takes various routes. So it forms like a little bit of a mind map. And what that does is it further narrows someone's interest type, and it culminates in 2 things. First of all, it's a genuine demonstration of escalation of commitment. All our email autoresponder campaigns, when someone clicks on a link, we record 2 things. We used to record one thing. We used to record the position of that email in the sequence, because that's an expression of engagement with your email experience. We want to know how many emails they've clicked on, what links they've clicked on, all that sort of stuff. Now, what having a nested trigger system does is it measures commitment as well. So it's no longer a linear experience. It's very 3-dimensional, and it's a weighted model. So we're now able to very easily identify trends within a user's, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very easy to identify particular trends in users' behaviour and then course correct on the basis of what information they're receiving. And it's usually the breakaway discussions from the data I've looked at. It's the breakaway discussions that usually lead to a conversion because each email or each link that's clicked on sends another email or schedules something else that is most relevant to the user. And you cannot do that in an email marketing campaign. It might seem like you can on the surface, and we'll have to provide some examples of how a nested trigger system is just this extraordinary mechanism in order to drive that commitment level rather than the engagement, rather than the lateral engagement level. And that contributes now towards the BMI, or the Belief Media Index, because we have a lateral value on how committed they are or how engaged they are in the email thread, and how committed they are now based on a particular point within that lateral autoresponder email campaign, the follow-up campaign, that they've dived deeper for more information.
And that original conversation, as we talk about, continues on. So they're able to still continue along that path there while the breakaway one shows the other interests they may have.
You can.
So we've got 2 simultaneous interests potentially taking place there, depending on what the breakaway interest is about. Yeah.
The advantage of a breakaway is we can still perform a standard subscribe action, but we can also perform actions based on nested levels, because we measure the depth at which people dive with emails. So, it could be 3 that way and 4 that way. All of a sudden, if that score is greater than that score, clearly that's an indication. So if they've gone deeper than they have laterally, that's a real clear indication that someone's engaged with that particular thread. The next email might come along, and that's where you get the engagement. You're able to refine interest and actually steer them towards the most relevant. The example we gave each other, or the example I gave you the other day, was if someone's a first-time investor or a seasoned investor. And then if you're investing, what type of investing are you interested in? You're interested in, public housing, NDAs, units, houses, commercial, all that sort of stuff. And you're able to drill down and actually refine that. And at a certain depth, you get, it's far more accurate than the information you get in that lateral campaign. So if you reach a certain depth, you can create all sorts of different actions on the basis of that. You can Human contact is obviously best. You can send text messages, you can send additional resources, and you can create a new profile. So if they've gone 5 deep, if they hit that point, we're going to do something with them. But it does contribute towards our BMI, so our Belief Media Index, as an email social scale. So instead of just getting graphed data, which is what we've provided for years and what we provide now, this lends itself more to clear email KPIs. How's our email actually performing, not just in terms of its engagement, but in terms of the commitment people receive, and how effective is it at refining different types of interest. So that's kind of how it works. It's something you're going to have to see and play with, but it is a first of its type. We literally had to reinvent the way these kinds of systems work. Because no one does it for very obvious reasons. But with our Solius system and so on, we can automate much of the creation of those campaigns and so on. So anyway,
I might take a holiday in June and see what other brilliant idea you come up with.
well, that was just one system. The actual trigger system is very extraordinary. It is the most comprehensive trigger system available to anybody in Australia, as far as I'm concerned. I've not found any product that provides the comprehensive array of available triggers, from web link triggers. This is MailChimp, I think, do, or was it one other email provider I mentioned the other day? They do web view triggers. People view a particular page. It's geared more towards shopping carts and things like that. So if people go to a checkout page or this or that, you're able to trigger certain actions on the server end. Obviously, we can do all of that. The system handles it easily, but ours works in a very functional manner. We do web link triggers as well. So if someone clicks on a particular link, we track that with all the metadata attached to it: location, geography, user. So we know exactly who's clicking on it. We can associate it with video views and other web browsing behaviours, and then the funnel experience. So it's an integrated system, so we've got that data. So the web page, web view, all the email open, autoresponder open, web autoresponder clicks, all that sort of stuff. You've got the Venus report triggers, or the links within a Venus report are customized for a particular user. We build that PDF in real time, and the users are the links within that report are tracked, which means you can assign specific triggers to a user from within that report. There's triggers galore in the what other system am I thinking of? There's Telco and Planner, Microsoft Planner triggers, moving tasks from one bucket to a next. But there's the Telco. There's one other trigger system that I've just completely...
The phone system, which you mentioned. No.
But there are triggers everywhere. They really are everywhere. And just having the nested email functionality, because email, look, at the best of times, if you've got a mediocre campaign, you've got an open rate of 35%, 40%, maybe, if you're lucky. Email is still one of the most effective ways of reaching people, but it is still highly ineffective in that such a small percentage of people will open your email, a smaller percentage will engage with it, and a smaller percentage will contact you. It's purely a numbers game. It's why everyone talks about just filling your list. They're not playing... business, they're just playing the numbers. So they're you can obviously improve upon those numbers on the basis of how you present your marketing and your website experience and your email and everything else that connects the dots.
The whole engagement's key here, so that's why we keep looking for ideas that will get people engaged and opening and clicking on things. What are their interests? What will they follow up on?
Yeah.
So that just helps us keep people in the funnel and interested in conversing with us till we get to that phone call, which is the one we always aim for the most and first more. Yeah,
that's right. It's really cool what we've done. those that are using the system, that trigger system will be live tonight. Our site, by the way, like even now, we're using our site for the majority of our testing, so nothing works. It's horrible, really. It shouldn't be live, but I just had to get it live just to, get things moving again.
And we had people asking us to bring it back up because there's a ton of information on there that people reference all the time.
Yeah,
some of the
that's
blogs
right.
that you've written. So it was interesting how quick we got emails for people asking us, can you bring this information back up again?
Yeah, we flicked the switch on that, and we got thousands of views. I don't know if you remember. Like the following day there were hundreds, but the next day there were thousands. So the traffic certainly picked up very, very, very quickly. And we needed that to happen anyhow to fully appreciate and test the nature of all those systems that are integrated with the site and so on. And it works really, really well. Like even just before Domenico got here, we were testing the text messaging system on the basis of email clicks and things like that. We made some improvements there, just the delays on text messages and the minimal interval that applies between text messages being sent and things like that. And it's a really amazing system. Integrates with Microsoft Planner. It will integrate with all the available CRMs, Sales Tracker and so on. At the moment, it's just Microsoft Planner because it's a catch-all. It's a generic system that everyone has access to by virtue of their Microsoft 365 subscription.
Yeah, so it made sense to make use of that and allow them to take advantage of that without having to go to another product.
Yeah.
Just to be able to manage a few tasks or leads. Yeah.
We've talked about it before, the number of people that gravitate towards Sales Tracker for a Kanban style task management board, only because they wanted the Kanban style features, and we've emulated that within the Microsoft Planner system. But the number of people that gravitate towards Sales Tracker is out of control. All those legacy systems, like we were talking about them last night, like Mercury and Podium and stuff. Even Infinity, which is meant to be a competitor to Sales Tracker, it doesn't come close. I know Infinity people that have a Sales Tracker installation they use on the side. So essentially they've got 2 CRMs, and if they were using our software, they'd be using 3 CRMs. Well, ours is not a CRM, it's a PRM, it's a prospect relationship management tool. It's there to manage your marketing and lead management and so on. But you don't want 3 platforms, you only ever want 1. But you still need a Kanban style board for internal business management structure. And that's where Microsoft Planner is really good. And we use Microsoft Planner. Like I
we live in it.
People remember
it's a core that we use to manage all our tasks and development. Yeah,
and we live in Microsoft Teams. We live in the Microsoft system, and it works well. That's why we. And you come from a corporate background. You used Slack at Oracle, didn't you?
Yeah, and before that, Pigeon messaging was huge within our team, especially because I had a remote team across the world, and so that was very critical to keep conversations going, knowing who was online, especially if you have a system down or a major outage. You need to know who's on the ball, ready to go, and get the information quickly across.
Yeah,
and email doesn't cut it at that point.
No, I remember the comment you said last night. When you said something about Slack or something, and I was talking about Teams because you were looking for a message that we'd posted in October last year. Do you remember that? I don't remember what the message was. And that's right, it was the
Text.io, yeah.
Yeah, that was an error in one of the things. And because, by the way, Microsoft are going to include a feature from within the Teams chat. You can create a task out of a chat or a task out of a chat discussion. So
I can't wait for that feature.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal because at the moment I stick stuff in chat all the time for Domenico. I put in all the data tables and graphs and all that sort of stuff that need to be done just because it's next to me and planners that extra step. And when I'm working very quickly, I don't want to stop and actually set up and then Domenico takes that and puts it in Planner. And that'd be a piece of cake to do if it was.
And the reason it was irritating me was because they had integrated other products into the system except their own planner. Yeah. I was like, here they are. You can create tasks in all these other third-party products, but not Microsoft's own planner. But it's coming. They put out an announcement now they're doing that.
Mortgage brokers should be using this stuff. especially brokers with more than one or two people in their team. You said last night, the comment I was going to make before is you said last night is when I was talking about Slack, you said people need Slack when they've got more than one person in their team.
Yeah.
And I said when you've got a full team. But Microsoft Teams is evolving to the point where Slack is essentially becoming obsolete. Teams essentially or virtually has all the features. It's still better than Zoom. People still use Zoom. Microsoft Teams is a far better platform for chats and client chats and things like that. The recordings are saved directly to your OneDrive and synced to your PC, and the quality is it's just a better system. But Zoom just spread like wildfire when coronavirus hit, and people just use it. Anyway. The platform itself is really extraordinary. We've built in like a bunch of new modules in the last month for the little bit of work that Domenico has been able to do in the time between hospital visits. Really, he's set up all the back end systems for scheduling social media content, and we put in a Royal Commission clone. Essentially, we pulled out all the exhibit files and all the documents and all the reports and all the leave data and basically everything from the Royal Commission website. Literally scraped the entire site, pulled in every PDF and made a local copy that's searchable and archivable. And the reason we did that is so people are able to download the dozen or so documents for large brokerage SOPs and systems and procedures and so on, so they're able to implement that measure of unvetted quality assurance into their own operation. So it's a really good resource, the Royal Commission resource, and we've got the videos in there as well.
Yep, the videos, the transcripts, whatever. Yeah,
that is the most pointless module, though, isn't it?
We kept on discussing why the hell are we doing this.
Well, I told you we're doing it because
it is useful.
We are going to give it to people as a satellite site, so we're going to have a little satellite site. So if you want to set up a Royal Commission site, or have a plugin on your website that imports all the Royal Commission features, we give that to you maybe in a month or so, a couple of months. It's not scheduled for release just yet, but. Yeah, it's part of, if you're looking at transparency, if you're looking to build a business that prides itself on transparency and customer first, it's important to present consumers with information that allows them to make informed and educated decisions. Now, the findings of the Royal Commission are somewhat damning of mortgage brokers, so it's probably not the best stuff to present to your clients, but certainly the information there, and this is the point, the information there in those 35,000 exhibit files are amazing. You got the CBA, the Bankwest, the ANZ Mobile Mortgage Lender, the Aussie Home Loans, all their operations manuals. So if you're looking at setting that stuff up for the first time, you can refer to that material for some sort of guidance. And those manuals, by the way, are all very similar. Someone's just plagiarised off the other, which is the way it works in the industry. And there's hundreds of other interesting documents. There's videos, there's phone calls. Like a lot of people, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, didn't realise that there were phone calls within the exhibit files, MP3 files. And it's interesting to hear how some of these insurance agencies and things like that conduct their business, and how some of these other brokerages conduct their business, and some of the trouble they may have found themselves in. What phone calls were there to kind of mitigate the damage in the early stage of those infractions having been identified or taking place. Anyway, the system is amazing. Most powerful system in Australia, just without question. You all know that. Those people that are using it are seeing extraordinary success from it. We're really happy with what they're doing with it. The manual, like I said, 650 odd pages, it's about 60 megabytes. Download it from the email we send you. Please read it. It is very thorough. There's a lot of stuff that's pending. We're big on Wistia, except it's quite challenging for most businesses to justify the $140 Australian every month to subscribe to that service. So we'll be introducing a really comprehensive Vimeo module, which integrates with all your stuff in exactly the same way as Wistia and so on. There's some stuff there that we brush over, but in the next release we'll have information on how all that works and what it does and so on. The advantage of Wistia, by the way, is that it sends webhooks, so we know how much of a video someone's watched and whether they've watched it in landing pages and that sort of analytical data. Now, you can't put a price on that really. $140 is a very small amount, but the problem with Wistia as opposed to Vimeo is that Wistia have bandwidth charges. When you exceed a certain bandwidth, they slog you with additional fees. Vimeo does not do that.
Yeah, and there's also it's minimal, but there's still a charge per file that you upload onto their system too.
That's right,
Yeah.
25 cents per video, which is 25 cents US, and that all adds up. It's not for your pedestrian everyday rubbish videos, is
So
it?
yeah, and we're discussing that. So anything to do with compliance is actually fantastic because you can actually see and know who's watched it and how much they've watched the video. So it's perfect for that. And obviously marketing, when you need to know how your videos are performing. So those two areas are the two areas that we personally believe it is perfect for. And the rest can go into Vimeo or YouTube.
Yeah. We'll be doing a bunch of, by the way, our client podcasts. These podcasts will still be client podcasts, but they're going to be, most of them will be public. So we're just going to stick a lot of them up on YouTube, as well as other sources. And that's just because we don't really introduce too much closed intellectual property in these videos. If we do, we'll keep it close and stick it on Wistia so we know who's watching it. And we only came to that decision. Well, we've been thinking about it for a little while. We came to that decision like about a minute and a half before we hit the record button. But it's something we've been looking at doing for a while. Just so we've got a record of it. Like all those client videos, I couldn't tell you where they are on my system now and stuff. It kind of feels like the content gets wasted because we only keep it up there for 2 or 3 days normally on Wistia and remove it. So at least now it'll be there for a longer period of time. It'll live on YouTube, and it'll give people a sense of what our company does and so on.
And how it progresses, yeah.
And how it progresses. Now, is there anything else we should introduce?
I think that's just it until the next one.
We have got some podcasts on YouTube, 1 to 5, I think. Number 2 is interesting. Bo Corby, Northwest Airlines Flight 41 into Tehran. Listen to that. We've recorded a ton. Some of them will go up soon. Unfortunately, we've scheduled them in order, but we've done like 1 to 5, and then we've done 7 and 8, and we've done 12 and 15. So we really just need to record those middle podcasts. So the really good ones, like Eric Moody, Speedbird Niner. He was British Airways captaining 747. We did a podcast with him years ago as part of Flight Podcast, and had 4 engines fail in his just southeast of Jakarta, I think. Gulungang, Mount Gulungang was volcanic eruption back in the day. They didn't know what it was. Yeah, things like that. It's interesting, but we're not going to get to those podcasts until we record that middle guff.
I thought we did that podcast, but
we
talked about it.
We did the Eric Moody one.
Yeah, the Eric one, but the Speedbird Niner.
Yeah, that's one we did. We did 4 aviation ones. The second one, which was Bo Corby, and then number 5, which is John Bartels and QF30.
Yep, QF30. Yeah.
He had and all this. You listen to this stuff, guys. Everything is aviation, broking, financial planning, accounting, any kind of business can relate to this stuff. Only because aviation is, I guess, such a regimented and standard and procedures-driven occupation. And then when you vacate from those published norms, you introduce these risk mitigation models and decision models and things like that in order to, engage your crew and formulate a plan. And every business does the same thing. They've got their SOPs. When you vacate from your SOPs, you need, a lot of people are just inherent decision makers. They don't need to refer to FORDAC or anything else in order to come to a conclusion. But it's always good to do a SWOT or a FORDAC or something like that with a team sometimes, just as a means of better managing your risk. Do a risk-benefit analysis and put it on paper. Certainly from an accountability point of view. We've had to introduce so many modules into the platform to manage certain types of compliance, which makes it the only compliant social media marketing system and digital marketing system in Australia that's compliant. Based on the burdens placed upon brokers, certainly in the last 6 to 12 months, it is the only system that manages compliance in a compliant manner, and that'll only improve as well. We met up with a girl actually a week and a half ago and realised, hang on, there's some other stuff we need to do, and so we'll be building a whole bunch of other modules there to manage compliance.
Yeah, that was all with the client first and checklists and compliance here.
Yeah. We talked a long time ago, and it's in the book, the story of the Michelin Man. It leans towards the story of Kodak. Kodak invented the digital camera, then put themselves out of business by not adapting to the technology. You and I were talking about Blockbuster the other day, and how Netflix went in and wanted Blockbuster to buy them, and they were laughed out of the room, and 12 months later Blockbuster went bust and Netflix were growing at a rate of 300% month on month. There's all these examples world over where businesses have failed to adapt to technology, and the sense I get from the mortgage industry is we all want brokers. People go to a broker because they want a broker, but I feel like even if the one-on-one human interaction is the way forward in the future, and I'd love to think that it is, because that's what brokers love doing, is helping people, sitting down with them and managing their mortgages and whatever else. We have to plan for the worst. We have to plan for technology. We always have to plan for all the eventualities. You kind of plan for the worst and hope for the best. And planning for the worst is a full comparison website. All our guys will get a full comparison website. We're so close to releasing that. We're still waiting on some of the data from some of the other banks. And we're also going to give that away to those that subscribe to the platform as part of the pre-release, because we're not actually releasing it to the public until the 1st of March. But we're taking pre-release subscriptions for a very low price. All our pre-existing clients are either on a mastermind plan or a platinum plan. We do have a plan now. And by the way, 47 of our brokers, even last year, and we weren't working real closely with new clients last year because we were so immersed in developing different types of technology and working with some of our existing guys. We migrated towards in a sense, kind of property models and things like that. So what was I saying?
We're very close to the comparison website being released, and you were talking about the platform.
47 guys
the 1st of March.
Exceeded 150 million in volume, which is the highest number of brokers we've ever had, and that was in one of the quietest years, which is great that they're making money. Glad someone is. So we do have a program that we're going to release. It's kind of invitation only because we have to assess whether people are actually capable of generating the volume. But even entry-level brokers, people that became a broker yesterday, we're going to give them an opportunity to subscribe to our platinum program, which guarantees them $120 million worth of volume every year. The money they pay us goes into escrow, so after 3 months. This is a program we've had for a long time, actually, but I'm going to take some people on in probably April and May and June. The money goes into escrow after 3 months. You can pull the pin if you like, and we just take 50% of the money made from the loans that were written through that period, or you after 3 months, the money's released from escrow, and we give you that 120 volume for the year, which is real easy for us because we do it every day. We could give you 300 in a year, and it would be a piece of cake. Everyone's doing really well at the moment. Those in the property game, spoke to a guy, he's 13 sales last month. He's been in the business for less than 12 months. You know, there's so many people doing so well. This is all leaning back to the comparison website. That's important just because I want to provide people with all the necessary technology to be able to write hands-free loans, and that carries with it the requirement to have all the compliance in place, which means online compliance as well, which is really hard to do. You know, we looked at Gem the other day. Gem's a astute version of Sales Tracker, which has all the compliance built in. But I think they're questions that are designed specifically. We'll have to log into the developer portal.
Those questions were all designed around the customer first experience. So questions on why the loan was chosen, why, and comparison between that loan and other loans, and it's pretty much stepped through the process.
Yeah,
but there was still a lot of duplication. Even though you answered the question previously, you still had to write up about it, and we're having that discussion then.
Yeah, the girl was saying that we spoke to said for each loan she wrote, she's writing, I think she said 1,200 words for each answer. Pardon me, on average. That's a lot, isn't it?
So it exploded out to a day and a half worth of work in an application, which is far too long.
And we can minimise that. You know, that's why I lean towards the comparison website, not because you're going to use a comparison website, but because that provides you with the technology then to be able to manage the compliance, the file handling, which is managed essentially via the system. We've got a file invite module included in the system. It's really nice to use. Do you remember that? You just it was super simple. It's integrated with Microsoft Planner. You just click the items you need and assign it to a user, and then the system takes care of it. I'm not sure if we're going to release that. Even by March, I don't think we'll release that module. It's the one module that I think I'll work on a little bit more, because there's some compliance requirements that wrap around that. And if we're going to build this compliance module, I've forgotten the name we gave the compliance module. But if we plan on building that, we'll know within the next 5 days, 7 days, how long that will take us. Anyway, the point is that will have to change. That file invite module we've got will have to change to be more closely aligned and integrated with the compliance material. So there's a lot going on still. We've talked for far too long. This was meant to be a 5-minute podcast again. I'm sure someone will listen to it. If we stick it on YouTube, this is the first client podcast that will go onto YouTube. So someone will see it eventually. We'll come to it at the end of the year. It'll have 8 views. You watch. It's a YouTube. Our channel data looks really good because we've got a bunch of YouTube channels, and we've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views. We get, you know, 10 to 15,000 views a day, I think.
Yeah, it's nice having the graphs to actually see that and measure it, and to the daily impact. Yeah.
Except for the Belief Media channel, which has next to nothing. But that lends itself, again, going way off topic, that lends itself to the satellite social aspect of what we advocate. You know, you can have these other channels that filter through into your primary network, and that works well. It's worked tremendously well for us. We've got millions of subscribers across all sorts of social media channels and networks and everything else, and they know who we are, despite the fact they're not interested in digital marketing or anything else. But when they are, they come to us. And the same applies for brokers. Again, it's why it's worth giving them the Royal Commission website. And I haven't told you yet, you have to build the dashboard front end for that. Oh. No. I'll do that. We can do that here. That'll take us an hour.
Simpsons.
We'll sit opposite each other, and we'll do that in an hour, because that is a piece of cake. All right, guys. Again, for those that haven't received a update in a little while, I apologise. Our systems were heavily modified when we migrated all the data, and some of the we recorded 2 earlier this month, didn't we?
Yeah, would have been right. Oh,
No, last month.
Yeah, January.
No,
Yeah, we're
it was in
February now.
December because I haven't really seen you since
So that's
December
2 months ago
20.
now.
So it was probably December 15 or something was the last time we recorded one or 2. And then sent out a couple of emails since then with a link to the book and all that sort of stuff. A good group of people would not have received that, and a lot of those guys would have been our mastermind guys. So anyway, I apologise for that. We have been in contact with most of you anyhow, so I think we've added most of you back on. But you'll certainly get this one. I'll go through and I'll check manually like a monkey just to make sure our systems are up to date. Read the book. I think you'll be blown away by some of the information there because a lot of it is stuff that we've kept pretty quiet. And it's been managed entirely in-house. We don't divulge stuff to brokers, but now we're just letting it all lay bare. You know, we're just spilling our guts because we're falling back on a whole bunch of digital systems that just provide this, amazing lead generation, digital and social experience. It really is very cool, very comprehensive, and it'll save you a couple of $1,000 a month.
Yeah, chances are you're using multiple systems to do what our system will do. It's just the one whole system.
Yeah, I went through just very, very quickly before we head off. I went through the other day and looked at. I keep on thinking of ActiveCampaign, ActivePipe, and Mailchimp. They're the 3 kind of mail systems I look at. There's also SendPipe or something. There's a whole bunch of them I look at, hundreds even. And I know you look at them as well. Because you go through and look at the underlying code when you get the emails and trace them back to where they've come from and all that sort of stuff. And I look at those and I can assure people our email system compares favourably against every single one of them. Certainly the mortgage industry and, Finsure almost as a matter of policy at the moment gravitate towards ActivePipe. They go out to their development days and all sorts of things, and that's because the head honcho of Finsure, I think, gets a kickback on all the subscriptions that come through. Very big company. They've got 70-odd employees, I think, in Victoria, Australian company. We've got two developers, me and you, up here in Sydney, and I would say our system is equals theirs in most areas, and well and truly exceeds them in others. And certainly from a compliance point of view, we are compliant. A good portion of what they do is non-compliant. Even a couple of the emails sent out, I don't think they pass those through their legal reps. A couple of the emails that came out in the last month or so have been non-compliant emails. They're giving advice that is not right. They're not providing comparison rates when they're talking about interest rates. There are all these little things that they're meant to be doing and do not. But that's because they don't understand the industry. They come close to understanding. I'd say they've got a background, but, So yeah, the email system, certainly the nested trigger system, which I talked about before, is fantastic. It's going to change your world. It will literally change the way your email marketing works. So there's a lot going on. Read the book.
And it will reduce the amount of time that you spend doing it too.
That's what I was getting at when I introduced those email systems. They're all over $100 a month. You look at our telco integration. We talked about that in September last year for our guys and said, look, it's probably going to be November or December before it's integrated. That's all done now and dusted. That's inside the system. We're now a telco provider, registered and all that sort of stuff that we need to be, and providing this really cool telco experience with all the call recordings and voicemails and transcripts and triggers associated with telco stuff. Someone calls your office, it's a busy signal or something or unanswered, we'll send them a text message if we're able to identify the mobile phone number. which is most of the time most people call from mobiles these days. There's a whole bunch of things that system does. It creates triggers through Planner into your CRM. CRM is integrated into the telco triggers. That includes Sales Tracker, and I did that intentionally because we upload call recordings and optional transcripts and things like that through to Sales Tracker. So, obviously compliance underpins the way in which we manage all our systems. And we want to make brokers more compliant because we know that they're struggling with time in order to do it themselves. The system is just extraordinary. If I look blue, because I'm looking at the big TV down the back, but it's only because a couple
I've got a blue tinge.
Yeah, I've got a blue tinge. I look blue again.
So we should do the theme song "I'm Blue" as we exit.
That's just the lighting. There's a couple of lights here. We used to have fill lights and they blew. Remember when you destroyed them?
All I was doing was changing the filament.
Yeah.
And they both decided not to
got
work
your
after
greasy
that.
fingers all over the bulb and they just blew. So that's that. So there's an enormous amount happening next week. And those of you that don't have access to the platform, and it is only a handful of you, you'll get access, I guess, with everyone else because the next 4 weeks for us is just very intense, and I'm obviously having to be mindful of the fact that Dom shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be here now. He should be at the hospital. Sitting by your mum's bed reading a book. Well, you'll have your laptop. You'll be working anyhow. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Until next time.
And call us if you need to.
1300 235 433 and beliefmedia.com.au. I got to say that because it's going on YouTube. In case anyone actually watches this video, they're going to think, who are these bozos?
All right. Thank you very much.
1300 Belief, 1300 235 433 and beliefmedia.com.au. Goodbye.